Yes, people, we are live at the Albert JTV household and the Hollie's Hotspurs household. Quarter-final defeat for England. England is not coming home, people. England won France 2. But before we get into it, let's smash the intro. And there you have it, people. Firstly, happy Sunday morning. Well, in some cases, but yes, the morning after the night before. England are coming home after quarterfinal defeat against France at this World Cup 2022. People, as I like to say, smash the like button on my channel and the Hollie's Hotspurs channel. Obviously, keep yourself warm as well because it's absolutely freezing here in England. But people, yeah, it's I'm quite used to this with England as an England fan, to be honest. As I like to say, 21 plus VAT, so I've seen a lot of pain. But we're going to dissect this quarterfinal defeat for England. Firstly, introducing my amazing co-host as usual, Hollie Agenbart. I obviously have to ask you how you are, but I know how you are. But for the podcast purpose, you have to tell me how you are.
Yeah, I'm all right. I think it's just standard, isn't it? You work yourself up, you get excited for it, and then it just comes crashing down. So I'm just used to it now. Yeah, no, it's great to be on here I dissect it. It's a good therapy session. So thanks again, Albert.
Yeah, Hollie, therapy is much needed, believe me, after that. And of course, we've got the double act in course with Hollie as well. And Jay, good to see you. It's been a long time. I'm sorry to see you at this point in the tournament, but how you been, man?
Yeah, no, I've been okay. Just the living life as a Spurs fan, but just in an England shirt. Really, get super excited with a really good team. Look like you're going to win everything, and then fall over and bottle it. So and just be absolutely devastated. So, like Hollie said, it's an emotion we know all too well. And I know I'm not glad, but I'm partly happy the England fans are going to get a glimpse of what it's like supporting Tottenham all your life.
Jay, you couldn't put it better. I can't put it better than that personally. But no, great to get you one, man. And last but not least, my Gooner Aussie from another brother, of another shall I say. Scott, thank you, because obviously, like I said, 11 hours ahead. So thank you for your time. Welcome to this match review, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. Always a pleasure to join you, and I wish it was under better circumstances for you, but just sitting here having a giggle with you complaining about the cold. What is it now? It's 10 o'clock and I'm sweating. I've got windows open. I've got a fan running, trying to make it like Antarctica. It's hot down here, man. It's very, very hot. But the football was hot too. It was spicy.
Yeah, listen, before we get into it, I said to when we had Wes and G talks on after when we did the review for England Senegal, I said bring France on, and when I said that, it wasn't in a way in terms of arrogance. It was a case of, and Scott will know what I mean in terms of like as an Arsenal fan, there's been too many times over many years where we've played big games of football, and we always come up short, and it's about time we need to start winning big football matches. One thing that's been labelled against England is the quality of opposition in tournaments and where we've got to. And I said, you know what? The world champions, yes, they've got some players missing, but they've still got some bloody good players in that squad and team, right? So bring it on. You got to start somewhere, because with England, I've seen a lot of pain. They don't win too many big football matches, you know, with the exception of 66, obviously winning the World Cup. But it's I thought, you know what, if England are going to come good, it's got to be in this quarterfinal. But hold on. So Hollie, coming to you actually before we sort of get the questions into the guys. What was your thoughts coming into the game? I'd say probably about an hour before the start of the game.
I think, like we kind of said on the show, I know, like obviously an hour before the game is slightly different a couple of days before the game kicks off. But I think, like you said, it wasn't arrogance. It was more like, I feel like the squad's in a good place. And if we're going to do something, I think this is the game to do it. Because like you said, it's France. We know they're good. We know they've got Mbappe. And I thought, but overall our squad, I think across the board is probably more talented in that kind of sense. In respect, when we all gel together, it's a massive unit that's good. Hour before, like most games, you're a bit jittery, but I was like, let's get it over and done with. Let's see what we can do. But sadly, it didn't go our way, did it?
No, it didn't. But yeah, Scott, because coming to you first, mate. What was your thoughts about obviously when we knew England was going to play France, and even with a lot's been said about England in big games being very defensive. I was hoping that he wouldn't go to a 3 centre backs and 2 wing backs thing. He stuck with the 4-3-3, which for me was a good thing. 4 years on from Russia, there's some more better players in the team and the squad. But what was your thoughts sort of coming into that England-France game?
Look, I'd put it out on my Twitter beforehand. This match for me, and it's going to sound insane with the way this World Cup's played out, but this was a World Cup final for me. I'd kind of said with the boys I do my podcast with, whoever takes this match, I think takes the tournament. I've watched Argentina struggle against Australia. We saw what happened against Holland. Morocco, I think that luck's got to run out eventually. I really felt that these were the 2 premier teams left in the cup. On paper, the best teams, on the pitch playing some of the best football. And it was just a big match. It was a very big match. So, obviously, I was back in the French, as you know, Abbott. I've got
of course,
my grandmother's French, so always backing them when there are no Aussies. But it could have gone either way. It was just always going to be one of them matches that was one for the ages. It was cracking. People will talk about it for years.
No, good shout, Scott. So the same question to you, Jay, but also as well, I think you mentioned it before we went live about the dreaded timeline of Twitter. All the opinions come out. Everybody's the voice of reason after the event. I mean, I see a couple things in terms of France is a step too far, and I'm like, well, if you watched that game for 98 minutes and you thought the best thing you could summarize to turn and say is that if France are, a superior team or whatever, then I must have been watching a different game of football, because I thought it was a tight game to call before. I was 50-50. I went England to nick it. I said England 3-2 in extra time, and it was looking that if Kane had stuck the second penalty away. But it was your sort of thoughts before the game in terms of England-France?
I thought if there was a time to go at France, it was now.
Yeah.
I really liked the way that we talked about the Mbappe threat before the game. Everyone's talking about it, and I really like the mentality the players had and Southgate had about, we're not worried about him, we're going to worry about us and exposing him defensively. And if you look at the game, and get onto it later, but for me, Bukayo Saka was the best player on the pitch. He had a lot of joy down that side, and it just to me, like Scott said, the game beforehand, if England were on the other side of the tournament tree to France, there's only one World Cup final, and it just happened to be that the 2 best teams in the tournament met in the quarterfinal. But I definitely, like you said, everyone talking about, France is a step too far. There's no way. And Scott was saying, but before the stream, some people are saying we totally outclassed France. That's not the case. It was, to put it in club terms, it was Manchester City, Liverpool. It's the 2 best teams in the land normally going up against each other in an all-out battle for supremacy. And it was set up for what it was, and as a game, it didn't disappoint. I was confident, but that's football for you. You can be confident, and it was just disappointing. But before the game, optimistic. And they're world champions, and it's the classic saying: if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
100%.
And whether we played them in the round of 16, the quarterfinals, the semi-final, or the final, we would have had to beat them at some point, because they are the best. So we can be disappointed, but we put up one hell of a fight. Exactly what we should have done. And I think once it all dies down, certain players on that pitch, we should be proud of the performance and what we put in.
No, well said. Hollie, I'm going to bring you in because I know you want to throw a question to the fantastic panel. Smash the likes, people. Smash the likes, please. Come on.
I was just going to say, because obviously the game kicked off, we've spoken about how we feel and things. But Scott, I come to you because obviously you're on the France kind of side in this game. What did you kind of feel? Because obviously the goal from Tchouaméni came literally after it looked like Saka got fouled. And obviously it went to VAR for a penalty. But when you relook at the replay, it might have seemed it was on the edge of the box. So it could have been a free kick. I mean, do you think that the ref had a little bit part to play in the defeat for England? Or do you think that's maybe just a little bit too far of an excuse kind of wise?
Look, it's always nice, and I know we're guilty of this as football fans. I do it all the time. When you're trying to digest a really tough result, you kind of it's so much easier if you can blame it or pin it on a referee. And again, I've done this on our podcast a million times, but I think the main theme you want is consistency. And I think across this whole World Cup, one of the things that I've observed. My neighbour's dog's going off. I've observed them letting the game be very physical. And I think with Bukayo Saka, and I love him, he's my favourite player to wear the Arsenal kit at the moment. I think sometimes he's guilty of asking for the free kick or going down and looking for it. Not quite diving. There's a bit of a difference, but
big difference.
He feels the contact. He goes out. The arms are out straight away. And I just don't think the refs are buying that in this World Cup. So I know it's easy to blame the ref. The penalty for me was outside the box. And it was one of those ones that was right on the edge. So even there, a free kick, it's hard to work magic from there. And I just think Saka needs to get up and run and chase that. But he was brilliant. He was England's best player for me before he was subbed off.
No, I think you're right. I think, like you say, it's frustrating for us England fans when you see that and then straight away France obviously score their goal. But Jay, do you think that obviously a bit of praise does maybe go to Tchouaméni in the fact that the way he managed to obviously score that goal from obviously that quick break that they kind of did?
I echo what Scott says about, it's 100% a foul, regardless of whether Saka's looking for it or not. My argument on that is that it is a foul regardless. Therefore, the referee should either blow for the penalty and then get VAR to check it. Because if he blows for the penalty and then we'll see it's outside the box. But like Scott said, if we win the game, we're not talking about it and we don't care. But the goal is just a touch of class. And it shows why Real Madrid wanted to pay all that money for him. He's been the bedrock of that France team this whole competition, and at such a young age to have the composure to, if you actually watch it back, the technique that he used, and whether he meant it or not, it looked incredible. I can't remember who scored a goal. It was the Giroud goal in the last round as well, which did something similar, where he's driven the ball into the floor just to get a little bit of height on it rather than it going directly along the floor. And I saw some absolute craziness saying Pickford should have saved it. Not a chance.
What?
Not a chance. And you can guess which pundit said that. A certain Irishman that's on ITV said that Pickford should be doing better there. There is no way. And Albert, you've had me on the podcast before when you've criticised goalkeepers. Unless you played the position.
One goalkeeper in particular.
Yeah, we'll talk about him later. I've been waiting.
I'm guessing you're a keeper.
No, I used to be many moons ago. But there's no way you're saving it. There's no way from that distance through legs with, and not to bring physics into this, but statistically, it's the fastest ball in World Cup history. It travels faster than any ball that's ever been made for the World Cup. And if you saw how that kid hits that ball, there ain't no way you're getting across the goal to save it.
No, I think you make some valid points, Jay. I think, again, it was just the nature of the whole free kick fiasco that could have happened. And then Tchouaméni just bangs that out of nowhere. Like, it was just incredible. But I'll come to you because obviously we didn't take our foot off the gas, which I was quite pleased about, because sometimes when we concede it, we kind of get deflated. And I was thinking maybe against France that might have happened, but we didn't stop, did we, after that?
No, I think I sort of taking it back to the first half and that incident. There's a lot of time that passes from the foul on Saka through the goal, for the ball actually being stuck in the back of the net. So I think England will look at that obviously defensively, think, what could we have done better? You always do that as a team anyway when you can see goals. But I think in the first half, I think the problem for me with England was it was too safe. The amount of times the ball was recycled between the two centre-backs, the full-backs, Rice back to the centre-backs, it was, you got to, if you look at it the other way, someone's put it in the chat in terms of Griezmann, he was absolutely pulling the strings. He's finding that pocket space between Shaw and Foden, and he came deep. He's in our half, he's in the French half. We just couldn't seem to get a grip. And in them type of games, and I mentioned this before, particularly in the central areas for England, you've got to be a bit more brave. Rice has got to get on the half turn. Bellingham did try in the first half. He got into good areas of the pitch, but England was going to find him. But for me, England, it was just a bit too safe, and they didn't really create that many chances in the first half that I can remember. If I'm being honest, there wasn't really anything I could say, oh, you know what, England were unlucky there. It was a good passage of play. It was too safe. It's way too safe for me, Hollie, personally. But sort of coming back to you guys, we come to sort of the second half, and England started really, really well, really, really sharp. I thought Saka and Foden, especially in the wide areas, really sort of pulled France all over the place. France have succeeded in every game in the tournament. I thought defensively, Upamecano was all over the place, and I thought Kane kind of not had him in his pocket, but he caused a lot of problems coming into that pocket of space. But Saka, listen, I thought he was outstanding. I thought there was 3 England players in particular, actually. I don't want to hog the limelight too much, but sort of coming to you, Jay. What do you feel England done better in the second half as opposed to what you saw in the first half?
I think it was that playing safe. I think we matched France in the first half in the sense that I think we respected them massively, and that's always a dangerous thing to do in football, and it's a very thin line to tread, respecting an opposition, but also not giving them too much respect that you play yourselves down. But in that second half, I think they realised, a goal behind, we're gonna have to give it to these. Weak spot was Mbappe and Theo Hernandez. If I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, the Australia goal against France came down that wing and was played across for Goodwin to tap in. It is a weakness. I think, and I say it again, I said it before, it's always country over club for me, and Bukayo Saka was incredible, and he was the perfect man to be out there, and the ball kept on going back to him. When we're talking about playing safe, and the worst thing that happened, in my opinion, was Jordan Henderson scoring in the Senegal game, because he is one of the safest players on planet Earth. He is Harry Winks reincarnated, in my opinion. He's a good leader. He's got experience in big games. I understand that, but
do you need him and Declan Rice? Do you need both of them?
Yeah, exactly.
At the same time?
We were in the pub. We were in the pub talking about it, and we were saying the substitution. It's not brave enough. We have glimpses of bravery in this England team. And we'll get onto Southgate, and I think he is brilliant in competitions, but he is very safe. And I think when you've got to gamble and play one holding midfielder, play Rice or play Henderson. In my opinion, Rice has to start. He was one of the standouts for me yesterday as well.
It's magnificent.
Henderson, just don't play both. Go brave. Put Kane in the 10. Put Rashford through the middle. Play. You say, do we need Henderson and Rice? But we've also got Bellingham, who for club plays central midfield. He doesn't play attacking midfield. So it's like you're playing essentially 3 holding midfielders. You're just not going to create anything. We just needed to be braver. And we saw glimpses of that through Saka, through Foden. But I just think, it just wasn't brave enough from Southgate and from that lineup selection in the second half.
No, well said, Jay. So Scott, before I come to you, listen, it's a better second half, much better tempo. Like I said, but Saka. Listen, where do I start, Scott? We both love the kid, man. He was exceptional. We had Hernandez all over the place. He won the penalty, which was a penalty. I thought, oh, thank God the referee's given something. I mean, don't get me started on the refs. I mean, I watched the Holland-Argentina game. That was just I couldn't believe what I was watching. But yeah, England get the penalty, Saka. But Scott, I think for me, like, so my question to you is, when I watch games of football, like big games of football, and it's 1-1 and it's tight, and there's always that window of opportunity. Yes, England didn't create clear-cut opportunities, but they got themselves into some really, really good opportunities. And sometimes you can almost miss the boat in that period because obviously France got the goal against the run of play, to be honest with you, to go 2-1. But yeah, what did you make of for England that second half, mate, first 10, 15 minutes?
It's what they should be doing from the first whistle in the first half. I was watching this with the guys I do the podcast with, and they were both cheering for England. So we were chatting a lot about it before, and they're saying when you look at this English team on paper, there is so much talent. And let's be real, for as good as England were, and they were, this is also a depleted French squad. There's a lot of big names missing: Kante, Pogba, Benzema. Like there's plenty of guys that should be starting who aren't. But I just felt England played within themselves. Southgate, I don't know if it's the media pressure back home. I don't know if it's just the pressure in general or his lack of experience, but he's so scared to lose. No one wants to lose a World Cup quarterfinal yet, but at some point you've got to back the players you've got. And I think one of the things that really let England down was how safe he played it with his lineups. Let's look at Maddison, for example. He hasn't been mentioned much, but if you had to look at who your form offensive midfielder was, it wasn't Mason Mount. It wasn't Mason Mount. It's not Jack Grealish. You would probably say that Maddison was your most in-form attacking midfield player. He didn't see a minute of time. Harry Kane is a brilliant player. I can't stand him, but he's a brilliant player. But Callum Wilson, like, chuck on two strikers. Chuck on Callum Wilson, Harry Kane, batter the French, because you had them literally for large portions of the second half. They had just retreated so far in that they were running on fumes because they can't rotate. The French squad is lacking depth. So those starting players are your finishing players. I just feel Callum Wilson, Harry Kane up front gives you something different. And Maddison coming on, or even dropping Phil Foden into the middle and taking off someone earlier. I just feel there's a lot of missed opportunities. And I think Southgate would be looking back with a lot of regret that he had all the tools there to beat France, but he just didn't use them, I think. And it's something to reflect on.
Yeah, no, Scott, well said. Before I come to Hollie, it's I mean, the second, like I said, the second half England started very, very sharply. And Scott, you're so right. I mean, the substitutions floored me. I could not believe when he brought a Mount and Sterling.
Yeah,
I thought the obvious changes for me personally was to bring on Rashford and bring on Grealish, because Maddison wasn't going to get any minutes. That was pretty obvious to me, but I couldn't believe it. And I know Mason Mount won the penalty, but I think for me, Hollie, before I come to you, and I think I messaged I think James and G Talks at the time. I said that when Kane missed the penalty, I was on autopilot for the rest of the game, that 10 minutes, because to me that moment had gone. It absolutely gone. And obviously the Rashford free kick at the end, which was really unlucky. I mean, I think it was a bit further out. I think it's a bit too close for Rashford in his style of technique, but yeah, close. But Hollie, coming to you, man. Go ahead.
I was going to try and maybe stick on the same kind of theme that we're going on at the moment, obviously about Southgate. And Jay, I'll come to you because obviously we've spoken about him and his lack of bravery, I should say, but we've seen this countless times now. It's not just the first time. So do you think maybe after this World Cup, the way we've gone out, yes, it was against France, yes, we played well, but do you think those key opportunities where he could have made a massive change and you just kind of bottled it, do you think this is it for him now?
I do. I don't think he deserves the lambasting he's getting. I think it's time for him to go, but it's kind of like he needs to go before it gets nasty. And if he stays, and it's going to start to get nasty. And if we, I know they're only glorified friendlies, but if we start losing Nations League games and the football's rubbish, and I just think you know, like Scott said, we've got too much attacking talent to have a safe manager. You know, we've got a generation of attacking players, and Declan Rice and you know, I would go as far as to say Declan Rice and Bellingham could play in that midfield on their own, and we could play a 4-2-4 because they're both good enough to do both jobs. And it is bravery, and I just don't think Southgate's going to bring this, and it's just wasting talent at this stage. It's just wasting talent. You know, like you said, you've got Maddison. You've bought a small, fast striker with you, and you've not used him or tried to integrate him into the side. He's banging goals in for Newcastle.
It's
you know, there's no way you drop Kane. There's no way you drop Kane because. There's no way you drop Kane, but you know, like they're on the ropes. You've got to batter them, and the substitutes were too late, and he's just too safe. And I just think, you know, he needs to go before it's too late, and the foundations he built get tarnished. Because don't get me wrong, what he's done to this England team is he's restored a sense of national pride. The relationship between the players and the media is much better than it's ever been. The relationship between us and the players is better than it's ever been. You know, we've got our national pride back when it comes to football, and you know, if you look at that squad of players, you could all imagine seeing them down the pub for a pint. You know, they're relatable. They're young. They're media trained, but they're still fun. You know, seeing Saka on TikTok doing, you know, the spelling bees with the players and stuff has been hilarious. You know, like it's just like they're one of us, and I just think it's a waste to have a safe manager when we've got so much talent.
There's only so far that you can take a team, and I think Southgate's reached that peak now. So, like you say, maybe it's time to let him walk as it is and get somebody else in. Scott, I kind of come to you because I know Jay's mentioned obviously you can't drop Harry Kane, and obviously being a Spurs fan and the way that he does play, you can kind of get that sense you can't drop Harry Kane. But it was just unfortunate yesterday when it really mattered. He sadly couldn't obviously find the net. So, Scott, do you think, obviously, we all know Twitter's a lovely place. Do you think the amount of rubbish that he's getting, I don't think it's warranted, but you can see the frustration?
Look, I said this this morning for us. There's a difference between banter and abuse, and it should never cross into that line of abuse. Now, don't get me wrong. I think you'd remember, Hollie, earlier in the tournament, I put out a tweet about a certain Richarlison, pretty much asking why on earth you'd rely on him to win a World Cup, and then he scored a banger. And I copped it from Spurs fans. It was at that point where you can't delete the tweet. You've gone too far. You've just got to leave it there and cop it. Now, I can understand Arsenal fans taking the mick out of him as the Spurs captain. You're going to hear the things like bottle jobs or, you know, you're going to get that. I don't think there's an issue with kind of the bottle job stuff or saying, you know, typical Spurs, but it should never get to abuse. I think, you know, with Harry Kane, whether you like him or not, that he goes out and he fights for that jersey. He fights for the national team. He genuinely cares about the national team. So if it crosses into that abuse, I don't think that's okay. And we saw what happened after the Euros. There is a nasty streak to football, and it should never get there. I think we're a lot better with that now, and I think that the Euros woke a lot of people up. So, look, I'm all for a bit of banter, and I think, you know, particularly between Arsenal and Spurs fans, you're always going to have that, right? We hate each other. But there's also a line, and I don't think it should. And I've seen some things that have crossed that line, and that's not okay. I have no time for that.
And that's the thing. I think frustration obviously is natural, but then the way you express that frustration, sometimes, like you say, people do go over the line. But Albert, I'll come to you if you've got something to share with the group. Absolutely,
when it comes to Southgate. He's been there, I think he's been there 6 years now. So three major tournaments, semi-final, final, quarter-final. I'll take Jay's point. He has that's one shift change in terms of none of this club allegiance nonsense that we hear about Rio Ferdinand talk and all the club players to get together and not getting one of our rivals, all this rubbish. You're playing for England in a major tournament, that's a privilege. Not everybody gets to play in a World Cup or an European Championship, so let's have it right. So Southgate has brought that sort of culture where you can see the harmony amongst that group of players in the last two to three tournaments. With Southgate, I think for me, and I listened to him yesterday in the press conference. I listened to it. I watched it. I would listen to him, and I'm not a body language expert, but I look at someone that I don't think he'll be for the next tournament. The FA will beg him to stay. The players will want him to stay. Someone's put a question in the chat talking about, who the next England manager should be. With the FA, listen, let me say something. The FA are a very safe organisation. They won't ever go outside of the box in terms of managers over a number of years. We're going back to, we had a very charismatic manager called Brian Clough who would never have ever got the England job because they wouldn't be able to handle him. He would have taken over the FA, to be honest. But I think it's time. I listened to Lee Sharp, ex-United winger. He said, look, Southgate's done some great things, but I think maybe these players need a different voice. We've got some talented players here, but I think as Southgate got him to do another tournament, I think he's contracted to the next Euros. But me personally, I don't think he should be the manager for the next tournament. I don't think he should be at all. I think people talk the way I would look at it, right? If we talk it back to Premier League sort of thing in terms of if jobs came available, I don't think he'd be considered by most of the top clubs. And that's not being disrespectful. I just don't think he would be. Managing club football and international football is very, very different. You've seen managers in this tournament now. The expectation to win a major tournament is massive. Brazil, the football's like a religion. You don't win it, you're gone. You resign before you're sacked. That's how it works. I think it's time we move on from Southgate. We're not diminishing these achievements with these group of players. But I go back to the Euro final against Italy, and even yesterday, you bring on Jack Grealish for 2 minutes ago. What's he supposed to do? What is he honestly going to do? Euro final brings him on in 96 minutes. Yeah. I mean, listen, substitutes are a massive thing in football. People get a bit worked up about, we shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. But listen, to me, yesterday was key at the point in the game that it was. And for me, he didn't manage it well, the substitutions. I thought they were awful choices, to be honest. So, Hollie, I don't know where we go from here. I mean, in terms of, listen, there's always someone available out there. It just depends. Listen, we've had English managers. We've had Swedish managers manage England. And one thing I will say, and this is not a Southgate thing, and let me make this very, 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 very clear. I've seen England get beaten some big football matches and under different managers. There's a systemic failing with England. When it gets to the crunch times, they cannot seem to win these games of football. I don't know what you do. We've had Ericsson, we've had McLaren, we've had Capello, we've had Venables, Hoddle. We've had some bloody good managers, and yet we still can't win these big games of football. I think the stat was mentioned in the game yesterday. I think England haven't won a game from going behind since the World Cup final in a knockout. I didn't realize that. I was like, wow, like the odds are really against us. So it's a systemic thing. It's not just a Southgate thing with England when it comes to games. So that's a very, very key point, man. But sort of my question, Hollie, let me not keep it. How long we got, Hollie? How long we got?
You're right. You've got about 15 minutes. You're right.
So, yeah, listen, for me, sort of back to the game, I thought there was 3 outstanding England players. I thought Saka was phenomenal. I thought Jude Bellingham grew into the game in the second half. This kid is incredible. And one player I don't think got a lot of mentions, but he probably did. I think one of you guys mentioned it. I thought Declan Rice was outstanding. I thought he was phenomenal. He broke up play. He nicked the ball off of the French on numerous occasions. I thought those 3 England guys, listen, particularly Bellingham and Saka, just for the ages they are, they got a lot of tournaments in them and they should be extremely, extremely proud. I think with this England defeat yesterday, though, so we'll come to Scott. It's kind of back to what I was saying before in regards to England losing. There's games, there's been tournaments where England have lost terribly. South Africa 2010. I mean, that Germany second round game was horrendous. But this one was a bit different. Positives to take, Scott, for England for this tournament and that game yesterday?
Look, I think just on an isolated thing from the game, Kyle Walker, he did a phenomenal job against Kylian Mbappe. Mbappe was very quiet. I mean, look, the cost of keeping someone like Mbappe quiet is that you often had multiple players on him. It's like in basketball when you've got the double team. It's going to open up space elsewhere, yeah? So, but I thought Kyle Walker did a brilliant job. I mean, if there's anything you guys have, it's your right backs. You're blessed in that department. But positives going forward. Look, your core is young. Your core is young. I mean, Harry Kane is not young, but a lot of your players are. You've got Saka there. You've got Foden. You've got Rice, who I thought was brilliant. You've got plenty of talent. For me, it just is going to come down to, Albert, who's the man who can get it out of them, like get them past this mental block of not being able to get through crunch time. That's the next step. And I don't know the answer to that because I actually don't know who will come in and do a better job than Gareth Southgate realistically right now. I think there's something systematically wrong around the squad. I don't know if it's the media. I don't know if it's like interclub rivalries. I don't know what it is, but something is in the back of your players' heads, and it's really coming out to shine. So I don't know what it is. I don't know the answer. I don't think it's as simple as a new manager. But what I do know is that Gareth Southgate has taken these players, taken your country, and done a brilliant job with them. For all the criticisms of his tactics and all of that, he's got them playing quite well, and they're feared again. No one I guarantee you, France didn't want to play England. They would have rather play anyone else this morning than play England. So I think there's plenty of positives. I think the future's bright, and I do think this England, like core and squad you've got, will eventually win something.
Yeah, listen, Scott, great answers, man. Jay, coming to you, sort of the same thing, but also as well, I think, like I said, I've seen some England. The way they've gone out of tournaments before in the past has been horrendous. I mean, for you, positives and negatives. And Scott makes a good point. Like, I don't know who England are going to get in next. If they want to go down the English route, for me, if I'm thinking of two English managers at the top of my head right now, it's probably Eddie Howe and Graham Potter. I don't think Gerrard or Lampard are even in the conversation, to be honest with you. If they're going to go down a foreign route, I don't know who they'd go for. The FA are very good at throwing money at it, so that wouldn't be an issue. But yeah, coming to you, Jay Gunn, what's your thought?
I just want to go back. I'll obviously talk about negatives first. I just want to go back to the Kane penalty as well, and I want to allude to what Scott said. I just kind of want to, anyone that follows me on Twitter knows that I don't have the best relationship with the Tottenham Hotspur fan base for a lot of the things that I say about the club and previous managers. But the Harry Kane miss is inexcusable at that level. You're a professional footballer, you shouldn't miss the target. The abuse shouldn't happen, end of. However, those Spurs fans that were on Bukayo Saka's arse after the Euros need to have the same energy now. I've seen nothing but I'm Harry Kane FC. There's a lot of Spurs fans slagging off Harry Kane, and it's like, yeah, but he's the captain of the England team. He's got a penalty, which is what he practices 6,000 million times, and he skies it. There's no defending it. And if you're gonna defend it, then you should have defended Saka in the Euros.
Well said.
And the abuse side of it, I agree. And obviously, without getting too into it, obviously there's a lot of stuff Saka will receive that Harry Kane won't.
100%, yeah.
But the energy needs to be there. And I've seen it all over my timeline at the minute, and I'm just kind of staying off Twitter because I'm gonna reply to someone at some point and just say
no, don't.
Yeah, but
it's hard. It is hard.
But on positives, I just think you know, I think there's a lot of young players in there. The positives is I do think Southgate goes. The negatives is and positive is I was talking yesterday after the game with a couple of my friends talking about who comes in and who changes this. Who comes in, plays brave attacking football, who would optimize the use of our attacking players, right? But there is one man who would provide that for England, in my opinion. Now, anyone that follows me on Twitter know that I'm not a fan of this man at all. However, if we want to optimize our attacking players and have the best attacking system, we need to get the Argentinian Mauricio Pochettino in to take over this. If we want an attacking style of football where we don't care whether we win or lose, as long as we play nice. As long as we play nice, he's the man for the job.
We need you to stop bottling it.
This is exactly it. He is. If England fans say they want nice, free-flowing football and they don't care about the result as long as the team play well, then Poch is the man, right? However, I am always an advocate for the player of the manager of the nation to be from the nation. I've always liked that. I love that with the African clubs this year in the World Cup. That was so nice to see, and so much better because the World Cup should be about nations competing. It should be about nations competing. So, yeah, okay, Potter, Howe, but they don't take the job. The only one for me is Tuchel. He said he'd want it. Experienced winner.
He has said it. He has said that. Yeah.
You know, and would I have him? Yes. Do I find it slightly weird that there's going to be a German running the English team? Yes. You know, I don't know. The positives is there's an incredible crop of players. This is we're talking generational talent level players. And we just can't do the England thing and just let them go to waste. We just can't do it. So whoever comes in has to be attacking, and they have to make the most of what we've got. You know, and I want to see players like Tomori in the team. I want to see, you know, we talk about Southgate being safe. You know, don't go with safe. Go with the best players. And whether they're 15 or 37, I don't care. If Harry Kane's still scoring goals at 33 before the next World Cup, he should be in the squad. But if Harry Kane's not scoring goals at 33 and he's fallen off a cliff, he shouldn't be going just because he's Harry Kane, England's joint all-time top goal scorer. That shouldn't be the reason he gets in the team. We need to pick off form. But there's a lot of positives to take in the sense of this squad is unreal. And I think that's why we're so frustrated, because we know what we've got. And the positive is, for me, is these young players that we're saying are incredible and generational talents, they're going to be in their primes at the next World Cup. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Won't be any 18, 19-year-olds at the World Cup. They're going to be established players. And that's my positive going forward, is that these players are going to have something about them next time.
Well said, Jay. Before I come to Hollie, listen, we need to get Phil Foden more central, man. That to me is obvious after watching this tournament more so. Wasted in this. He can play there. He can play in that position, but to me, he's too good a player. You have to get that guy more centrally, 100%. But Hollie, coming to you.
Might help if I unmute myself. Yeah, I think like what everybody said about obviously Southgate, this, that, and the other, I think is spot on. But I just want to take it back to the game. And Scott, I'll come to you because obviously from the French kind of point of view, and there's one man I know that we'll get to Jay about this man as well, but it's Hugo Lloris, because for Spurs he seems to have a bit of a flap. But I thought against us he was incredible, which is really annoying. So what's your kind of thoughts on obviously Hugo, because he has had a lot of stick from Albert, but what do you make of
not that much?
Look, he's not a penalty stopper. Let's put that out there first. All Harry Kane has to do is put that second pen on target and it goes in, because Lloris couldn't save a penalty to save his life. But I thought he did well in terms of making saves when he needed to. He's had an okay World Cup. I just feel he doesn't You never feel, and you guys probably feel this more than me, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you ever truly feel safe with Lloris in there in a kind of high pressure situation? I know I don't when I watch the French team. I always feel like he's going to drop it or he might fumble the ball or something.
He won yesterday.
Look, he's having a decent World Cup. I wanted to ask you, Hollie, sorry, I know I'm the guest. I shouldn't be asking questions, but
of course you can.
One of my co-hosts, Rob, who's a big United fan, when Kane stepped up for the second penalty, he straight away really adamantly said to me, he shouldn't be taking this penalty. And I said, well, Kane's a penalty taker like this. He belts them in. And he said, think about it. He's taking a pen against his colleague, the player at his club. He's got one past him. But then when a second penalty comes, and Rob played at a much higher level than me. I was reserve goalkeeper. That was my job. But he said, when that second pen comes, you then know that goalkeeper knows your game. So not only was Kane having the pressure of putting the penalty in and thinking about where he'd place it, but he also had to try and counter-think what Lloris knew about his technique. Do you think Kane should have taken the penalty against Lloris? Rob talked me into it. If it's against any other team and not Lloris, I'm like, yeah, it has to be Harry Kane. But do you think he should have taken that second pen?
It's difficult because what you said does make sense. But then I think to myself, but Harry Kane's the penalty taker. Yes, he plays against Lloris like all the time in training, but his technique is good enough to beat Lloris. You've just stated as well that Lloris isn't the best at saving penalties. So I think on that kind of front, if you're going to look down that angle, then it's fine. I mean, we always see Lloris jump off his line before he's supposed to jump off his line anyway.
Many times he does that, yeah.
In that kind of respects, you're thinking, I don't know who else I'd let take a penalty in that high-pressure situation. Obviously, I don't want to go back because we've spoken about, obviously, the Saka pen last year. Yeah. But who do you let take it? There's so much pressure. Harry Kane should be able to deal with that pressure. He's played in Champions Leagues. He's played in World Cup games. Yeah. He should be able to do it.
But you see with the penalties, the first one, I was confident he'd score. I'll be honest with you. The second one, I'll be honest with you, I was 50-50. I said, you know what? For me, Lloris has gone completely the wrong way the first penalty. You come and take the second penalty, you go the opposite way. I'm telling you. I know he's got a very good technique, Harry Kane, with that penalty that he canes into the goalkeeper's right. But I thought, you know what? The second penalty, I was very 50-50 and I really wasn't sure. But I thought, you know what? Go the other way. To me, I just thought, don't go the same way. Because he tried to put a bit too much on in it. And it's gone over the bar. So listen, penalty. I think as well, people listen. And this is not a Tottenham Arsenal thing for me. Listen, I see a guy take a penalty in a pressure situation. That's massive. Like 7 minutes to go, 2-1 down in the quarterfinal. I don't care how experienced you are. That is pressure. You know what I mean? And scored a goal. Did he be England's leading goal scorer ever? So it's. I put it down to pressure. That's the only thing for me. That why he missed that penalty, because 10 times out of 10 you'd back him. But I'll be honest with you, when he tapped up for the second penalty, I was very 50-50. And I think Enya Luko said it, what Scott was saying about, someone else should have took the second penalty. But like I said, it's Harry Kane. I wouldn't have picked anybody else personally. But like I said, pressure does unbelievable things in elite sport, man.
It does. And I remember, I can see that Jay's smirking, which I'll come to Jay next. But I remember at the pub, Jay kind of saying something. I'll let him. I won't steal his thunder, so go for it, Jay.
I just want to say, Scott, I've loved you all podcast, and then you had to go and ruin it. We were getting along fine. Oh no!
Here we go.
No, I'm joking.
I thought it was going in. It's not even a banter.
No, it's Lloris. It's Lloris. It's not the Kane. It's the Lloris.
We're good.
Dan, thank you very much in the chat for reminding everyone. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Sergio Aguero, Jamie Vardy saved multiple penalties for France. To say there is no goalkeeper we've seen a lot of goalkeepers save penalties, and I think that's gone to a lot of people's heads at this World Cup, to be perfectly honest. Saving a penalty, there are mind games, but it is mainly luck, especially with the new rule. I think it's become increasingly hard for goalkeepers to save penalties because players are allowed to stutter. I get they're not allowed to stop, which is good, but players, in my opinion, shouldn't be allowed to stutter for penalties because the goalies aren't allowed off their line. When that rule was introduced years ago, it made a nearly impossible situation even more impossible, because now the goalie just has to guess, and players are just walking up to the penalty, waiting for the goalkeeper to move one way or the other, and then just slotting it the other side. On the penalty for Kane, Kane's going top corner and Lloris isn't saving it. That's what's happening. That second penalty, Kane's going top corner and Lloris isn't saving it. In my eyes, from what I saw, what happened was Kane's gone to take it. He's seen Lloris is going the right way, and he's tried to put more on it than he did the first time. That's what's happened. And I definitely 100% think Kane should take the penalty. He's our penalty taker. I'm always, I hate when players score 2 goals and then they're not normally a penalty taker and they get given the penalty to take it. And if you have a penalty taker, they should be your penalty taker, regardless whether they took the last one or not. And on Lloris's penalty saves, if you look at all of Lloris's penalty saves that he's made, they're all low. And if you look at where Lloris dived yesterday for Kane's second penalty, Lloris dived low. So I think Kane, you're talking about game planning and should Kane have taken it? I think Kane should have taken it because he did the right thing. And he also, the same way Lloris knows Kane's game plan, Kane will know Lloris's game plan. And Kane will know that Lloris dives low. A lot of goals that Tottenham concede are, low. Lloris does struggle to get down, and he overcompensates and goes down because he struggles to get down. And if Kane puts that bottom corner, Lloris is saving it because, But I just think Lloris, for me, is a World Cup winner. He is a World Cup captain. He is, and Albert will forever regret bringing me on this podcast many moons ago and talking about this, because he just keeps on proving exactly why he is a world-class goalkeeper. He has a mistake in him, yes, but he is world-class. There's no way the French national team would pick someone else. Mike Minigan is not going to be picked over Lloris the whole time he's fit. He's a captain. He's a World Cup winner. He's a leader. He's a quiet leader, don't get me wrong. But anyone that's watched any Tottenham stuff or things know that in the changing rooms, that's where he does his talking. I just think, Kane should have taken the penalty, and Lloris is world class. That's where I'm going to... he is world class. Yeah, that's it. It's done. But yeah, I just think he proved again yesterday why I rate him so highly, and why until he has got a mistake in him, and he does make me nervous. But that Jude Bellingham shot, is every keeper in the world saving that? Most. Huh?
I said most.
Well, I don't know. I said this yesterday. The speed it travels, yes, it's down the middle, but I don't know. I just think he's to write him off at your own despair. And yesterday, I think a lot of people and a lot of Spurs fans were chatting, saying, "Hugo's been wobbly for us, and he's going to be wobbly for France." And it's like people writing him off, and then he has an absolute worldy game. He goes for one ball and drops it, and he has one shot that he kind of fumbles, but even then he fumbles it in front of himself. He showed again yesterday why he's the captain of that France team and why he will probably win his second World Cup this time.
I hope you're prepared to tell that to the Morocco fans.
Oh, well, yeah. Hollie's Benunus in goal for Morocco.
Yeah, I can see you was eagerly waiting to get that off your chest, Jason.
I regret bringing it up.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm always happy for open discourse, man. I'm always open for happy open discourse.
As long as Jason gets the last word on the race.
You guys put me last. It's nothing to do with me.
Yeah, I didn't bring up the Lloris question. It was my favourite co-host who decided to bring up the Lloris question.
That's all right. I'll bite her ear off in the car. It's all right. Don't worry.
Yeah, you do that. Well, yeah, people, thank you for tuning in. 54 minutes in, man. Smash the like on my channel, Hollie's channel. But to wrap up, Hollie, I think we might have one more. We'll talk about. We might do one more show. Wrap up the World Cup. But who do you think will win it, guys? Coming to Scott, last four.
Only one answer: France.
France, yeah. You want France? That's stupid. Of course, you're going to say France. Yeah. What about you?
France. I don't want another team to win it. Obviously, I wanted England to win it, but I'd be just to see Piers Morgan in tears. I want Argentina to win it just to see Piers Morgan in tears.
Listen. This World Cup's been well. You know, to be fair to Croatia, they're very wily operators, very experienced, very technically good. So listen, I think with Argentina, I'll be honest with you, right? I know I get the people with the whole Messi thing, but I just think they're quite a classless side. I saw some of the antics they got up to against Holland. Nah.
That's Argentinian football, though. They've always been like that.
They will want to win at all costs. And yeah, there's some things I saw in that. I'm like, nah, I'm not with them. That's 100%. If Messi wins it, fantastic for his legacy. But some of the other players, some of the antics I saw against Holland, nah. Hollie, what about you?
Well, after you said all that, and I wanted to say Argentina for Messi, I'm going to keep quiet.
No, you're entitled to your opinion. Big up to the people in the chat, man, on this Sunday, still technically Sunday morning, night time for Scott, I believe, early hours of the morning, whatever it is. I can't remember. 11 hours ahead. But I want to say massive thank you to Scott and Jay. Jay, tell the people where they can find you, my friend. It's been a while.
You can find me on Twitter at JGSeason and Twitch and TikTok. I play a lot of vintage computer games and stuff. So you can find me there.
Where is it? Well, so people, go and follow the young bad people. Scott, my brother from another mother, man. Dad. Thanks for coming on, man. But tell the people about your amazing channel where they can find you.
Always a pleasure. Yeah, my Twitter's under here in the box, but I co-host a podcast with a Chelsea and a United fan. We do some live streams a couple of times a week. It's called It's a Football Thing. The link is down in the banner scrolling below. Yeah, we're on the road to 1,000 subs. So if anyone wants to show us some love, please, we'd love that. And love to get you Spurs fans on sometime as well. Jay, I want the last word on the race. He's an 18% penalty shot stopper, 18% success rate. Not too bad. 1 in 5. Almost. Not too bad. So let's call it a draw.
We'll call it a draw. We'll call it a draw. On penalties, we'll call it a draw.
We'll stop that talk right there, anyway. But
so Hollie, you can go to football by yourself. I'm staying here. I'm staying here and talking to Scott.
So my amazing co-host Hollie, we'll throw in one more show to wrap up the tournament. It's been a fantastic to do this collab with you. Where can people in the title on my channel? You can click the link to subscribe to Hollie's channel and also Scott's channel with the amazing guys at IFT. So go and do it and multitask. Do it right now, people, before Sunday roast. But Hollie, a pleasure again. Obviously, the circumstances not great, but we move.
We do. No, it's been good. I've enjoyed it. Like I say, we don't normally get to collab for much. We're either on opposite sides on the TV screen, or we're actually together because we're talking about England. So it's quite nice to not argue over our different teams. But no, it's been good, Albert. Thank you.
No worries. People, as of course, your other co-host, Albert JTV at AUMO57 Twitter handle. Everyone's details again along the bottom of the banner of the screen. But I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I need to have a World Cup debrief very, very soon. But people, we are over and out. England 1, France 2. England are coming home, people. Take care.